Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel wherever you are in the world. I do hope you're doing remarkably well, and I hope that you're going to have a lovely fresh drink before you listen to the story tonight. So get yourself comfortably relaxed and let's get started, shall we? Now it's very, very exciting because the Kushners and Russos are now experiencing a Wendigo in their woods, and they're about to call a North American shaman who knows how to deal with the Wendigo, how to eliminate and get rid of this beast. So let's find out what happens next in our story. But before we do, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and a thumbs up, and let's get started with the final part of our story tonight. True to his word, Paddy Russo did not fail to disappoint in any of his promises. A day or so later, a shaman called a Gizi, which means eagle in North American culture, arrived at the Kushner ranch. The eagle is considered sacred and revered in indigenous North American culture, for it represents the Creator and the Creator's spiritual connections with all people. Samantha was not sure what to expect when the shaman arrived at the house. He was gentle and softly spoken in nature, and had an innate wisdom about him that was undeniable. He had dark, very kind eyes that were heavily fringed by lines, a prominent beak-like nose, along with a deep olive-weathered complexion that made it look like he spent a great deal of time out of doors. He was wearing a camel-coloured loose-fitting pair of pants, with a matching, comfortable, loose-fitting tunic-like top that was fringed by a design of feathers. He wore a necklace of eagle's feathers around his neck, along with some leather moccasins on his feet. "I'm Eagle," he told Samantha Kushner, "but in my culture my name is known as Agizi, but everyone just calls me Eagle." He shook Samantha's hand after she opened the front door to him. It was difficult not to warm to Eagle immediately, for there was such a kindness to him that you find in people who are usually spiritually very connected. Oh, please, mind my manners. Do come in," said Samantha. "I love your name, by the way. In my opinion, eagles are the most magnificent birds in this entire planet. You should ask my husband. I'm fixated on the birds." "Well, I'm very glad you like eagles, Mrs. Kushner. They are remarkable birds. Extremely spiritual they are." Samantha beckoned for Eagle to follow her into the house. But when he did so, he immediately took off his moccasins, left them in the entrance hall as a mark of respect. "Just so you know, Eagle, my daughter, Paddy Russo from next door, the ranch next door, that is, and my husband Braden are all in the kitchen waiting to meet you in person. They are the three people that experienced something very peculiar in the wood grove, so I thought you'd like to talk to them. Paddy Russo is the one that contacted you, Eagle. He did a whole lot of research online. He believes that both he and my daughter encountered a Wendigo in the wood grove. We do not know if this creature imposes a threat to us or not, but Paddy believes we have good reason to be extremely concerned about this thing. I was delighted that he managed to contact you. I'm told you're very in touch with all things spiritual, so we definitely need your wise input here, because my daughter still is too frightened to go into the wood grove after such a horrifying encounter, and understandably so, of course. If you're dealing with a Wendigo, Mrs. Kushner, then I'm afraid to tell you you do have a major problem. We need to send the Wendigo back to where it came from. It is a supernatural being that is extremely dangerous. It has a ravenous, insatiable appetite and is permanently hungry. It feeds ravenously on human flesh, but is never satisfied. It has the innate ability to mimic the people you know in your life, and even long-lost loved ones long since departed, the way that all demonic entities can, for demons know everything there is to know about a person. The Wendigo employs these duplicitous techniques in order to lure its unsuspecting victims into its guileful Machiavellian trap. And alas, I hate to tell you this, Mrs. Kushner, but many a sorry soul has not escaped its formidable grasp. But it does sound to me as if your daughter and your husband were both sagaciously savvy in escaping its clutches. But you don't want it to trick you again, as next time you might not be so lucky. It has remarkable powers of deception that are exceedingly persuasive. That's why you need to test the spirits, to see whether they're from the dark or from the light." "Good Lord," said Samantha Kushner. "I think you need to come into the kitchen straight away to tell the others that are waiting for you what you have told me. I don't think what you have to say will make for easy listening, I'm afraid." Once Eagle had heard everybody's extraordinary stories in the kitchen, and Carla's description of the being she had encountered, Eagle was in absolutely no doubt that they were definitely dealing with a Wendigo. He took it upon himself to go off into the woodgrove to perform some ancient rituals and ceremonies, using some indigenous instruments from rattles to flutes, along with a great deal of chanting. They could see ceremonial white smoke rising from above the trees. Everybody wanted to watch Eagle and see what he was doing, but he told them he needed to do the ceremony alone. When Eagle returned from the woodgrove, he informed the Kushners that he'd be back later that following evening. "I'm afraid to tell you, ma'am, there is a portal in your woods, which is the problem that we have here. It is closed right now, but it must have been opened very recently, even with just a whisper of a crack. And that is all that is needed to allow the Wendigo to slip through into our reality. At the moment, I'm pleased to tell you that the portal is closed, but you have a Wendigo that is roaming loose on your property, and it is ravenously hungry. That makes you all, both in your ranches that are adjacent to each other, in perilous danger. The creature will stop at nothing to lure you into its insidious trap. That is why your husband's steer was found in the grove, Mrs. Kushner, so that your husband was forced to go looking for it. And then he heard the voice of his late grandmother. But luckily he was sensible enough to abandon the woodgrove in haste. And as for your daughter, luckily a distortion in the projection that the Wendigo was giving off made her realize that what she was seeing was not really her father. Both parties concerned are extremely lucky to have not been devoured by this cavalier beast, because things could have been very different, let me tell you. I have contacted Zorro, guardian of the woods, through my ritual. He'll be here later to open the portal, and then to send the Wendigo back to whence it came. And then he'll close it again, very tightly, making sure that there are no cracks in it. So I will be back later in the evening, at possibly about 8 o'clock, I think. True to form, Eagle arrived at the Kushner ranch at about 8:10 in the evening, and then he asked Carla Kushner to accompany him in the woodgrove. Carla was naturally alarmed. "Why me?" she asked, not liking the idea of going into the woodgrove when it was dark, even if Eagle was with her, as she was still feeling quite disquieted from her horrifying experience with the Wendigo, and the last thing she wanted to do was return to the woods and have another encounter with this grotesquely evil entity, especially at night like this, when things were infinitely more sinister. "Must she go, Eagle?" asked Samantha Kushner, looking decidedly alarmed. "I mean, is that a good idea? My daughter's terrified of going into the woods at the moment, especially after what happened to her. I'm quite happy to go in her place if you need someone to be there with you." "I'm sorry, ma'am, it's not as simple as all that, I'm afraid, but your offer is very generous and I appreciate it. But you must remember the Wendigo is currently drooling over your daughter's scent at the moment, as she was the last human he tried to lure into his duplicitous trap. So her scent is still teasing his senses, and will likely lure him out of his hiding place. She was the one that got away, you see, and he will be resolutely determined not to allow that to happen again. And the moment he senses that she is in the woodgrove and he picks up on her scent, he will be up to his old tricks again, believe me. And he won't realize that he's walking into the trap that Zorro has set out for him. And that's exactly what we want." "Oh dear, I don't like the sound of this at all, Eagle," said Samantha. "I mean, my daughter's terribly affrighted at the moment about the woodgrove after her horrendous experience in there. Must she do this? Isn't there possibly another way?" "I'm afraid this is the best thing we can do in the circumstances," said Eagle. He turned to face Carla. "You need to embrace your fears," he told her. "No harm will befall you. Zorro will make sure of that. He has asked specifically that you come into the grove to entice the Wendigo out of the dark shadows, where the Wendigo takes cover. This way Zorro can get the Wendigo into that portal, and then the problem will be dealt with once and for all, and Zorro will seal the portal, making sure that there are no cracks from which it can escape again. When that happens, the evil will leave your woodgrove, and you will all be safe. And I'm sure you need that for your family and want it. You don't want this threat to be hanging over your heads for one moment longer, especially when you're not paying attention, because the Wendigo will easily outsmart the lot of you, and then there is nothing that you can do." "Who is Zorro?" asked Samantha, looking rather perplexed. "Zorro is the guardian of many of the forests around here in the Montana area. He's going to help me this evening in sending the Wendigo back through the portal, and that's exactly what we need. No one else would be capable of doing this, other than Zorro. He was the person I had to contact." "I'll go with Eagle," Carla said. "He's right. I'm not going to let that thing get the better of me, nor can I allow it to hurt anyone in our family. It's already attempted to deceive Dad, and so I need to do this for all of us. I need to face my fears, Mum, and I'm going to do it." "Well, I'm proud of you, sweetheart," said Samantha, taking her daughter lovingly into her arms and giving her a large hug. "But are you sure my daughter's going to be all right?" asked Braden Kushner, looking decidedly apprehensive. "I remember when I heard my grandmother's voice calling me in the woods. I was completely rattled, because she's been dead for a long time. It freaked me the hell out, but I recognized that voice. But I never physically encountered this heinous thing that you're describing. But for my poor daughter to have to face it all over again, well, it doesn't rest easy with me, I'm afraid. I could easily go in her place, could I not? After all, I'm my daughter's protector. Any father would feel the same. And besides anything else, this thing did try to entice me into the woodgrove." "I'm sorry that won't work," said Eagle. "Zorro needs me to bring your daughter Carla into the grove. I know it's not what you want to hear, but it's her scent that will lure the Wendigo out of his hiding place, because it will titillate his taste buds too much. It's a big temptation for him. It's like putting a big, tempting piece of cheese on a mousetrap and expecting the mouse to ignore it. That rarely happens." "I could come with Carla if she's feeling a little frightened," Paddy Russo volunteered rather eagerly. "I could have her back. I mean, I saw this thing myself, so I know exactly what we're dealing with. I even shot at the thing several times, and it ran off. I frightened it away, I think." "You say that, young man, but that is the problem. You don't know what you're dealing with," said Eagle. "And shooting at a Wendigo is useless. It can't die, it's a spiritual entity, even though it is made of flesh. If you accompany Carla into the woods, the Wendigo will make his presence known. He may be ravenously hungry, eager to devour human flesh. But one thing is, he's not stupid. He didn't run away from you, young man, when you fired shots after him, because your bullets would never have harmed him. He ran away from you because there were two of you, and he knew he'd been outsmarted." "Look, please stop worrying about me, will you?" said Carla, glancing at the worried faces that surrounded her, that were looking at her doubtfully, as if they had absolutely no faith in believing that she was capable of standing up to the Wendigo again. "I can do this," she said with a confidence that surprised both of her parents. Samantha watched helplessly from the kitchen window as her daughter walked beside Eagle into the woods. Both of them carried torches in their hands, for the darkness had set in. She turned to look at Paddy Russo and her husband. "I don't like this one bit," she admitted. "Our daughter is going into the woods in the dark, with that thing still out there. Just the thought of it makes my flesh cringe." "Look, Samantha," said Paddy, "I really think Eagle knows what he's doing, and I'm quite sure we can trust him as far as Carla is concerned. None of us like the fact that Carla has to go with him, but there isn't a choice in the matter. You heard very clearly what Eagle had to say about the matter. I know he would never put your daughter's life at risk, Samantha, but I'm quite sure you agree. None of us in the circumstances can rest easily until the Wendigo has finally been removed from the grove. My uncle and you, Mr. Kushner, are running substantial-sized ranches. All the animals and the steers are affected. We don't need a thing like that preying on any of us, especially when we're unguarded. The thing is decidedly dangerous and is capable of doing grave harm. It needs to be dealt with now, and then we can all relax. Eagle has assured us that once the Wendigo is thrown back into that portal, everything will return to normal again. And I feel confident that this is true." "Paddy's right," said Samantha. "We do have to trust Eagle on this. I'm sure Carla will be absolutely fine." Carla was not feeling comfortable walking with Eagle into the woods. She had tried her best to hide her disquiet from both of her parents and from Paddy, so as not to alarm all of them. But when she entered the woodgrove, her knees were wobbling beneath her, and she felt nauseously sick, almost as if she was about to throw up in any second. Eagle, sensing her obvious discomfort, looked at her rather reassuringly and said, "It's going to be fine, Carla, I promise." The firm conviction in Eagle's words brought Carla a small measure of reassurance, even though she still remained slightly on edge. It was dark in the woods, with only a slim sliver of moonlight, casting a subdued pearly luminescence through the trees. Carla had never been into the grove at night like this before, so she did feel somewhat unsettled, but the chorus of crickets and frogs singing so cheerfully assured her that all was well. But that changed pretty quickly when the tuneful chorus came to an abrupt and very sudden stop, as if the musical orchestra itself sensed that something outer-worldly was in their midst. Carla became overwhelmed with this gnawing gut feeling that something was watching them. But when she turned around to look at Eagle, he had all but vanished, and she discovered she was alone in the woods. Where had Eagle got to? He had told her pacifically he'd watch over her, but he was nowhere to be seen. Why was she alone like this? Carla was now so nervous that her knees were practically buckling beneath her. She needed to get back to the farmhouse straight away. I'm sorry, but she couldn't do this alone. She didn't have the courage to face that Wendigo again. Eagle hadn't told her he'd abandoned her like this, but it appeared that he had let her down very badly, and she needed to get the hell out of this oppressive woodgrove that seemed to be closing in on her, and the trees themselves that had always been her friends seemed to be conspiring against her, for the energy in the woodgrove did not feel benign, but toxically malevolent. Seconds later, Carla smelt that stench of death and decay that she recognized very well. Now she knew she was in trouble. It was the Wendigo. She was sure of it. All of a sudden, Carla heard her mother's voice calling out to her. "Carla, it's me. I just don't like you being in the woods in the middle of the night like this. It just doesn't rest easy with me." Then Carla saw her mother walking towards her, and she felt such immeasurable relief. Thank God her mother had realized that Eagle just could not be trusted, because he had abandoned her like this. "Oh, Mum, is that really you?" said Carla, charging eagerly towards her mother, not thinking even for a second that she was being cleverly duped by the Wendigo, because this projection of her mother was so profoundly real. Carla didn't even doubt it for a second. "Of course it's me," came her mother's voice. "I've come to get you to take you back to the farmhouse. I don't want you wandering in here alone, do I? What are you doing here anyway? I thought you were terribly afraid of the dark." The last part of the question should have sounded a warning bell for Carla, because her mother knew exactly why she'd gone into the grove in the middle of the night. But Carla was so relieved to see her mother that she didn't engage in even a shadow of a doubt. The maternal figure of her mother represented safety and security in her life, and in this vulnerable moment when fear had overcome her common sense, she ran towards her mother as fast as she could. A second before Carla reached her mother, she sensed a powerful presence at her side, and then a big hand was placed on her shoulders, and it gently removed Carla away from her mother. Carla turned around to see that an enormous Bigfoot, which had reached out and grabbed Carla's mother and thrown her over his shoulders as if she was just a sack of potatoes. Carla thought she had to be dreaming. This just could not be happening. She didn't even think Bigfoot existed in North America. Well, not until now, that is. But she couldn't doubt what she was seeing with her eyes. The Bigfoot must have been easily over 10 foot tall, with ponderous shoulders and a powerful chest that seemed as solid as rock iron, and was rippled with intense muscle definition. The creature was covered in long dark hair, and had overlong arms and a face like that of an Indian warrior. Carla cried out in alarm, "Put my mother down! Please put my mother down! Don't hurt her! Don't hurt her!" But the Bigfoot appeared to not listen to her. He held her mother down firmly on his shoulders. Carla was mortified that her mother would likely come to some harm, and she ran after the Bigfoot crying, "Please put my mother down!" Then, through the clear illumination from her torch, Carla noticed that the figure on the back of the Bigfoot's shoulders was not her mother. The image of her mother suddenly became distorted, like a television that goes on the blink, and then another image replaced the picture of her mother, and Carla saw to her horror that it was the Wendigo. She could see the familiar, very grotesque, gnarled, emaciated body, with the violently sharp claws becoming all the more visible, and then the hideous face with the dead red eyes that were glaring at her. The Wendigo was being held down by the Bigfoot, but it was looking at her and taunting her by speaking in her mother's voice again. "Carla, it's me. What are you doing in the woods? I thought you didn't like the dark, dear." And then the Wendigo cackled like a witch. "Go away," Carla screamed. "You're not my mother." Carla realized she had willingly almost walked into its duplicitous trap and had believed the Wendigo was her mother. How could she have been so foolish? "Put me down, Zora! Put me down!" screamed the Wendigo, who was kicking and trying to run his sharp razor claws through the Bigfoot's long flowing hair. But the Bigfoot held on to the Wendigo so firmly that he remained captive on his shoulders, rather like a mouse caught up in a cat's jaws. It seemed clear to Carla that the Wendigo suddenly realized he really was doomed. "You tricked me, Zora!" he cried out. "You tricked me!" And then Carla saw it, a large area of silvery light that gave off some rainbow shades of colour and developed into a very wide circle around the trunk of an ancient tree. The Wendigo began cursing, screaming more and more as they got closer to the light. And it was using the most vile language that Carla had ever heard. It spat contemptuously, and every word that came out of its mouth was poisonously repugnant. The Bigfoot got to the light, and it held the Wendigo steadfastly on its shoulder, and the Wendigo screamed, "No! Don't send me back there, no!" But it was too late. The Bigfoot threw the Wendigo into the wide circle of light, and once the Wendigo was caught up in the circle, he screamed as he slipped down the long tunnel of the vortex, and then there was a gurgling sound, like the last remaining water going down the drain of the kitchen sink. The white silvery light, along with the rainbow of light it exuded, faded, and everything became dark in the woodgrove, although the torch that Carla was carrying lit up the dark shadows. Seconds later, the tuneful chorus of frogs and crickets erupted into a cheerful song, almost as if they sensed the threat in the forest had all but gone. The nasty stench of death and decay had disappeared, and everything felt nice again, really pleasant in the woodgrove, as if that nastiness and that vile energy had all but dissipated. All of a sudden, Carla realized Eagle was at her side. She looked at him in profound amazement. "Why did you abandon me, Eagle?" she asked. "I trusted you to be here with me." "I never left your side, not even for a second," Eagle reassured her. "I had to cloak myself so the Wendigo could not see me. That's why you didn't see me either, but I was here all the time." The Bigfoot appeared to be standing over where the light had once been, around the tree, and Carla realized that that was the portal. He appeared to be chanting something. "Mantilani, hampilansanqua, hapilanasi, humfonosi." He then laid a pattern of sticks and stones on the ground, and then turned around rather nonchalantly and walked towards Eagle, and for a moment they spoke together, almost as if they'd known each other for years. Carla was able to understand their conversation, as when Zora spoke to Eagle in the strange language, the words mysteriously turned into English in her own head. "It's done," said Zora. "He's been swallowed up by the portal. He will not be coming back. He will be dealt with. I think he slipped through a crack on the last lunar eclipse, I believe. But it shan't be happening again. You can be assured of that." "Thank you, Zora," said Eagle, slapping the Bigfoot on the back. And with that the Bigfoot gave Carla a kindly nod. He looked at her through his treacle-coloured eyes, that were filled with such a genuine warmth and kindness that to date Carla believed she has never seen more beautiful eyes. The Bigfoot spoke to Carla directly. "Thank you for being so brave tonight, young lady. I applaud your courage. It would not have been as easy to deceive the Wendigo without your help. He was salivating over the smell of your flesh, so when he smelt you in the grove, I knew he'd be drawn out. The wood grove is safe now. I have secured the portal thoroughly." And with that he nodded and glided away, with such an extraordinary grace. It almost was deceivingly looking as if he appeared to be floating on air. Carla had never seen a more magnificent creature in her entire life, who was so human but majestic at the very same time, and she knew she'd never ever forget him. "Who was that?" she asked Eagle. "That's Zorro. He's from the tribe of an ancient people that have been around for eons," said the Eagle. "Zorro is the guardian of many forests in the Montana area. I called on him for help in my ceremony, because I suspected there was a crack in the portal, in the wood grove, which has allowed the Wendigo to slip through to our reality. But now he is safely back where he belongs." 3 years later, Carla never forgot her outlandish experience in the woodgrove, when she'd encountered the Wendigo, and how one night, thanks to Eagle the shaman, she'd been used as the quintessential bait to lure a very hungry Wendigo from out of the dark shadows, from where he was hiding, into their trap, so that Zorro could throw the Wendigo into the portal and ensure that it was safely closed. Since then nothing untoward had ever happened in the woodgrove again, and life had chugged along seamlessly at the ranch, at its very contented, unrushed and leisurely pace. But one thing had changed, and that was this mischievous 7-year-old boy who had thrown Carla's doll into the lake all those years ago, who Carla had been determined to hate, had now become the quintessential love of her life. Paddy Russo was a successful rancher these days, working side by side his uncle, but he'd also become a fixture and fitting in Carla's life, and she had big dreams of one day spending the rest of her life with him. On this day, when her cell phone was full of missed calls from Eleanor next door, saying, "Where are you? Why aren't you answering your phone? I've got something amazing to tell you, Carla, but mum's the word." Carla, who'd been making oatmeal and raisin cookies, several that her father had secretly devoured, had wiped her hands on a tea towel to dry them, and then called her friend back. She was quite certain that whatever Eleanor had to tell her, that it was probably something very unexciting. Eleanor had a dreadful propensity to get wildly excited about the most insignificant, mundane things, rather like a sale that was occurring at a shop in town with a 20% discount on the original price. Things like that did little to inspire Carla, but nevertheless she felt duty-bound to return the call, as after all, Eleanor was her very best friend. "Oh, thank God you've answered," said Eleanor. "I thought you were never going to come to the phone. You'll not believe what I have to tell you. It's the best news ever. You're going to be so deliriously happy. But as I was saying, Mum is the word. Promise me you won't spill the beans that I told you this, because I don't think Paddy would be remotely amused if he knew about it." "What do you want to tell me?" asked Carla. "Go on, out with it." "Well, you know that you and Paddy are going to have a picnic on your dad's boat while you're rowing on the lake tomorrow." "I know, it was my idea," said Carla. "I told you, I've always fancied a picnic on that boat. My father recently bought it, and I thought it would be a great idea for, you know, us to go out on the boat like that. Paddy was up for the idea. Don't tell me you want to come along as well. Is that what this is about?" "No! Are you kidding? I definitely don't want to come along," chuckled Eleanor. "I wouldn't want to steal your thunder, would I?" "I don't know what you're talking about, Eleanor. You wouldn't steal my thunder coming on the boat with us. You're welcome to join us. Paddy's arranging the whole thing, along with all the food. So if you want to come, you're welcome. But you better tell him, because I don't want to run short on the picnic food, do I? Paddy was so insistent on organising it all for me, and I'm quite happy about letting him do it. Are you really that dumb, Carla? Can you not see what's going on here? Since when has Paddy ever organised a picnic before? Normally you're the one that plans events like that." Well, I think it's nice Paddy wants to organise the picnic. He knows how much I've wanted to do this. I've longed to go out on Dad's boat on the lake and enjoy a picnic lunch. It's going to be great fun. As I say, you're welcome to come. Well, I know something about your picnic you don't know, said Eleanor, sounding as if she was gloating. Paddy's going to propose to you tomorrow while you're picnicking on the boat. Isn't that so romantic? I couldn't wait to tell you the great news. But as I said, mum's the word. You should see the ring he's bought you. It's beautiful. Oh, my word, I'm so jealous. You're going to be a rancher's wife. Isn't that so cool? Is this some kind of sick, perverse joke, Eleanor? Because if it is, I'm not laughing. Of course it's not a joke. Paddy was in the kitchen last night, showing everyone the ring. He says he knows you both still young, but he wants to spend the rest of his life with you and he wants you to know all about it. He says it's his way of making his feelings very clear. He asked my father what he thought about the gesture, and he said it was a fabulous idea. You do want to marry him, don't you, Carla? That's not the point. It seems to me you're the only one that's dumb around here, Eleanor. Can't you see what you've gone and done? No, what are you talking about? What's that supposed to mean? You love Paddy, don't you? I thought you'd be thrilled that he's going to propose to you. But you seem all cross and bad-tempered about it. Sometimes I don't understand you, Carla, at all. You told me yourself that Paddy was the one for you. Are you upset because you're still so young? Maybe Paddy should ask you in a few years' time, perhaps. I could talk to him if you like. I'm sure he'd understand if you want to delay things for a bit. That's not what I'm upset about, Eleanor. Don't you see what you've gone and done? You've ruined the surprise for me. You've taken that away. How could you do that? Now when Paddy gets on his knees and proposes to me, I'll be expecting him to do it. And that's horrible. No woman wants to know when her man is going to pop the question to her. Why don't you understand the concept of surprise, Eleanor? Are you really that clueless? I can't believe you're acting like this, Carla. I call you to tell you the great news, and all you do is jump down my throat about it. I'm looking out for you, that's all. I want to share in this happiness with you. You are going to say yes, aren't you? Oh, Eleanor, what are you like? You're incorrigible, you know. Of course I'm going to say yes. You know how I feel about Paddy. And I love you to death, but you can be so unsubtle. Like a drive slowly sign on a highway. Honestly, don't you get it? I do actually enjoy being surprised sometimes in my life. And now I'm going to have to act all surprised, aren't I, when Paddy pops the question to me? And that spoils everything. But he's gone to so much trouble on my account. I'm going to have to go through with it. I'm sure you can pull it off, Carla. You can act surprised, can't you? When Carla had ended her call with Eleanor, she was trembling with shock and excitement of the revelation that Paddy was going to propose to her. Yet all the same, she was still so young, far too young to get married, she thought. She felt aggrieved that Eleanor had revealed to her what Paddy intended to do, but she decided, despite everything, once he presented the ring to her, she would act surprised, and of course she would marry him, because he was the only man for her. The following morning Carla had made an extra effort with her appearance, as after all, if Paddy was going to propose to her, she needed to look her very best. She decided to wear a trendy pair of jeans and an attractive top. She probably looked more glamorous than the average person that tends to go rowing. The lake on the Kushner property was very beautiful. It was surrounded by some crooked trees, including a couple of willow trees, that cast their leafy green boughs over the water. Once Carla arrived at the lake, Paddy helped her onto the boat. They both wore sun hats and sunglasses, and were thoroughly enjoying the warm sunshine on their faces. Paddy opened up the picnic basket, and they hungrily dived into delicious food, which was washed down with glasses of champagne. "Wow, you've excelled yourself today," said Carla. "Paddy, I don't know what to say. This food is amazing. And this quiche, I've never tasted anything like it. It's delicious. And champagne as well. You certainly do know how to show a girl a good time, don't you? I certainly couldn't have done better." "I'm so pleased you like it," said Paddy. "Just so you know, I did have an alternative motive for taking you on your father's boat today and having this picnic with you." "You did?" said Carla, feigning surprise. You haven't got an old doll by any chance of mine that you want to throw into the water, like you did when you were 7? She teased.
No, nothing like that,
said Paddy, standing up on the boat. He seemed to be retrieving something from his pocket.
I've always been intrigued by you, Carla, from the moment I threw your doll into this lake, and since the day I ran into you in the wood grove, and I shot at the Wendigo. It was in that moment that I knew you were the one for me.
He handed Carla the box. What is this? asked Carla.
This is a promise ring, he said.
What is a promise ring? asked Carla, opening up the box carefully to stare at the diamonds in awe. This is beautiful, Paddy. I don't know what to say. What do you mean by a promise ring?
Well, I just want you to know how I feel about you, Carla. So this is my way of saying that when I'm a little older, just a little bit older, and more established, I hope one day to ask you to be my wife. But this ring is a sign of my commitment to you, and how serious I am about our relationship.
So you're not proposing to me, then?
Good Lord, no, said Paddy. There's plenty of time for that yet, isn't there?
Carla sighed with relief, for she loved Paddy very much, but believed that they were too young to get married yet. It was at that moment a stone was thrown into the water. It landed close to the boat, and that was when both Carla and Paddy saw Zorro the Bigfoot standing close to the willow tree. He was giving them a nod. Carla heard in her head,
I'm just going to check on the portal to see that all is well.
And with that he glided back into the woods. But it was clear he'd wanted to say hello to them, and that warmed Carla's heart. When Carla was 30 years old, she got married to her boyfriend Paddy Russo, so she now lives on the ranch next to her parents and has become a rancher's wife. The couple will soon have children, and Eleanor, who's married herself, remains the best of friends with Carla. Many years have gone by, but Carla has still not seen Zorro, but she is sure he visits occasionally to check up on the portal. After all, he is the guardian of the forests in Montana, so there's no reason why their paths should not cross again. But as for the Wendigo, that beast will never be able to return. So there you are. That's my story. Wow, what an incredible story. Until next time, goodbye and good night.